How do you prioritize your budget lines? And we're also going to look at budgeting at the national level. As the government of Rwanda, why does the government budget? What are the priorities for the government? And how is the budgeting, your personal budget, how does it relate to the government budget or to a national budget? Okay? So budgeting, in simple words, is telling your money where it is going. It is telling 1 franc you're going to buy a book, another franc is going to buy a pen, another franc is going to buy a bottle of water, another is going to buy uniform, another. So it is allocating or making sure that every amount of money that you have is allocated to something. It is saving, it is paying tuition fees, it is paying rent, it is buying food, so it's all that. We are going to look at, like I mentioned, we are going to look at the importance of budgeting in the country's economy, like Rwanda. We're going to look at some templates that we can use for budgeting, very simple templates. And then we are going to wrap up, and then we get questions from students. So what we are going to look at is building your first budget. As a student, as a person, as a government, as an employee or employer, how do you make sure that you have a budget? Or how do you come up with your first budget, okay? But first, why does budgeting even matter, right? So budgeting is allocating your money to something. How do you make sure that every line of your money is going to something? That is called budgeting, so allocating money to something. But why does it matter? The reason why it matters is you get control over your money, okay? When you budget, you have control over your money. So if we take an example of you're making a salary, Blaise was saying he wants an internship that is paying. So let's say Blaise gets an internship that pays him 50,000 per month, okay? Now Blaise gets his 50,000, but maybe he has not planned and budgeted how to use that money. He will wake up and go and drink a soda and eat chapati. Then tomorrow he will go and buy, or he will go to watch a football match and pay 1,000, or he will go and hang out in Chimirongo with his friends, and they drink more soda. So he has not budgeted and planned for the money. So before he knows it, the money is finished, right? And maybe he doesn't even have transport to go back to work. But when you budget, when you say, I'm getting 50,000 and I'm going to spend 1 month in internship, but I need to be able to buy something. I'll buy myself shoes to go back to school. I'll buy maybe school books. Maybe I'll buy a school bag. Or maybe one day I'll go to the market and buy food for the home. So you have control over your money, okay? So the budget helps you to track exactly where your money is going to go, what you're going to use it. So you're fully in charge. You avoid spending it without thinking, okay? That's one. Number two, it reduces financial stress. By financial stress, I mean you don't of what you're going to use your money for or what is going to happen to you. Because remember, as you're budgeting, you're looking at what are your needs, what are your wants, how much can I save? So it reduces the stress of always thinking, where am I going to get money for transport? Where am I going to get school fees from? So knowing how much you have and where it's going gives you a peace of mind, okay? It helps you not to worry about what is going to happen tomorrow. It helps you to build savings. I think we mentioned this last time. And one of the things we mentioned last time was why do we need to save in the first place? You save because you might deal with emergencies. Maybe you have a medical issue that just come up. If it comes and you don't have money, it becomes a problem. But if you have saved, then at least you have money to support you. Maybe you didn't get school fees. And so once you have saved, you're able to deal with something that has come up at school that is urgent. So we ensure that every small amount of money that we save, it helps us to deal with emergency costs. And then it helps you to reach your goals. Maybe today you have planned that after senior 6, you're going to get a small job, and then you pay yourself to do CPA or CAT, like we were discussing. So once you have that goal, then you know how to save, okay? Or maybe there's a school trip that you want to go to. Or maybe there's somewhere where you want to visit. you know. So saving that amount of money or planning it ahead and making sure that you have a plan budget, it helps you to plan with the money that you have so that you have that saving or you have that extra money that will help you do that. So it helps you to reach your goals, whether it is short-term goals, whether it is long-term goals like studying and achieving a qualification or a degree. That is important for budgeting. And then it helps you it prevents you from overspending. Again, when you have money and you don't have a plan for it, you just spend it, okay, because you have it. So those are some of the key things that matter when it comes to budgeting. And these are all life, they're things about life, you know. You set your goals, you can only achieve them if you have some money. You stop overspending. Just because you're making money, it doesn't mean that you just spend all of it. So budgeting and planning for how you're going to spend it is very important. Okay? Any questions there? Okay. We continue. Why budgeting matters. So you develop strong spending habits. So you become very strict in terms of using your money. Okay? And then you adapt to life. So budgets are not also this month on ABCD. It doesn't mean that I should not change. It only helps you to, yes, look at the priorities, but in case something comes up that you need to deal with and adjust, the budget can be adjusted. But the adjustment needs to be also in plan. So that's why it's very important when you're budgeting. Yes, you budget for the things that you want, but do you have a backup plan of if something comes up, how do you adjust the budget? It means that if I have budgeted to buy airtime of 30,000 and something else comes up, maybe I can adjust the airtime budget, or I can adjust the transport budget, you know. If I was getting maybe a taxi voiture, maybe I'll get a motor so that my transport costs reduce. So you should be also able to adjust the budgets. And then it helps you manage your debts and credit. So for example, if you've borrowed, you owe a bank money or you owe someone money, once you budget, you know how much exactly to put aside to start paying your loan, okay? So those are some of the importances of building a budget or having a budget, whether it is a personal budget, whether it is an organization budget or company budget, whether it is a national budget. The components are the same. Okay? So now I have a question for you. I know you've probably not worked before, maybe you have not dealt with a lot of money before, but you have had people dealing with money. And you have maybe your parents, you have told you about how they're dealing with it. So I wanted to ask you to share one moment when money was used without planning and tell me how budgeting could have helped. So for example, maybe you know somebody. It could be anyone. Or it could be something that you think about, a scenario. Just imagine when you can use your money without planning and how budgeting can help you to deal with that issue. Anyone? So let's say I give you 100,000 today. Now.
Yes. You give me 100,000. Okay, first.
If you have not budgeted, what will you do?
Not budgeted. I will spend so much. I will eat. I will buy my friends' treats. I will go watch football match. Buy something that are necessary. But if I budget, I will plan for savings, investments, and plan for a healthy future.
Exactly. Anyone else? So let's say you have, let's say if your school has 200,000, what would you expect them to do in a school? What are some of the key things that you'd expect them to first deal with if they have budgeted? And if they have not budgeted, what do you think they would do? Yes?
I do think the school has the amount of money you save. I think the school would at least buy some food for, people. And I think if the school hasn't did anything, they would buy like, trucks. They would buy, this, do you call it, a machine, you know,
Computer.
and stuff, yes, the computer and stuff.
So for you, what in a school, what are the needs in a school? What do you remember the difference between the needs and wants?
Yes.
Yes. So the needs are the essential ones. The wants are those that you can do or do without. That you know. So what are some of the, as a school management, if we had 200,000, you as it's in the school, and what do you see as some of the wants in the school?
Okay, in the school, the essential needs are food, drugs, cleanliness. That is essential. And the ones are like trips, things that are not too.
That you can do or not do, and you still survive. Okay. Somebody has something to say?
In school, you can say what you see, the basic need, somewhere expense of electricity, you know, students, they need electricity for studying, and the jobs that they will be using, and even the lunch that they take, it is the many basic needs. But the ones that you can see, if the school start buying some differences balls for different sports like basketball, netball, even many different. Those are the you can be one, because somewhere you can study without getting them. But if there is an opportunity to get them, you will get them. But the basic need is the one that if you don't have, even the studying will be somehow complicated, or some challenge will be faced in studying.
Okay. Okay. So pretty, yes. What do you say your name is?
Sonia.
Sonia, yes.
Okay. Thank you. For me, it is not answer. It's a question. My question is this. You said that making a budget, you have to make it before you spend money. Okay? But you have given us the example when you give, for example, when you give me 100,000. There are like three, before I didn't plan how can I spend that money you given to me. But some people can get money, their electricity, he or she plans their electricity, how can they spend their money? So is it possible to plan the budget of your money before or after?
Oh, so you can't plan for something you don't have.
Yes, but
You budget for what you have.
Oh.
Yeah. So basically, a budget is a plan for the money you have, or that you plan to get. So, for example, if I'm working, I already know my salary, right? Because I'm working. There's a salary I get every month. So that salary, I plan for it every month. I plan and say, okay, maybe I have a bank loan, I'll pay this. Maybe I need fuel, I'll buy fuel of this much. Maybe I need airtime of this much. Maybe I'm paying school fees for my children this much. Maybe. So I am planning based on how much I get. I can't plan for money that I will not get. Because I know I'm being paid that salary, it's the one I plan for. So even you, if I give you 100,000 now, that's the one you plan for. You can't plan for something that you don't have. So you deal, in fact, that's the bottom agenda for a budget. How much do I have? Where am I going to spend it? How much am I going to save? And is it possible that I can actually deal with some of the needs that I have and be able to save? But the goal should be dealing with your needs, maybe once, if the money is still enough, and then also make sure that you save. So you always plan for the money that you have. You can't budget for what you don't have. Yeah. Have I answered your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other question or comment? Okay. So now that we understand budgeting, one of the things that generally is always advised, there's a 50-30-20 rule around budgeting, especially in personal budgeting. So with all the money you have, even if it's 1,000 francs, with all the money you have, it's always advisable that you on the needs, on the most essential things, you spend 50%, right? The ones, because you can do without them, 30%, then you save 20%. So there's a 50-30 rule. And when you actually go with that, it becomes very easy because you're thinking, okay, how many needs do I have? Maybe it's transport, it's food, it's rent, it's school fees. So does that amount to the 50%? And then sometimes the ones you can do without them. Sometimes it's not always that we have wants, okay? If it's entertainment, sometimes you don't have to have entertainment. You can skip entertainment, but you must be able to deal with your needs and then be able to save. So 50-30-20 rule is always advisable with whatever amount of money that you have, okay? So now that we've discussed about budgets and we understand why we need to budget, and besides why we need to budget, we also understand what are you budgeting for. You budget for the money that you have projected. So now let's look at the importance of budgeting in a country's economy.
Question.
Yes.
There is some obstacles we can meet in budgeting.
Mm-hmm.
When I have 100 amount of money, then I plan I'm going to buy some items for doing something.
Yeah.
Then I plan the price. Then when I go to the market, I get the price is increasing.
It has increased.
Yeah.
So
Then
yes, finish.
I fail on my plan. What can I do?
So when you're budgeting, there are things that are called assumptions in budgeting. When you're doing your budget, you just don't get the money that you have. Let's say I have 100,000. I don't just get the money that I have and say I'm going to buy, okay, let me take food, for example. This month I will use 30,000 for food, okay? If I allocate 30,000 for food, I must also understand the market. How much is the food that I'm talking about? If I'm going to buy 2 kilograms of sugar for the whole month, do I know the cost of sugar? So it means when you're budgeting, you don't just get your money and say, this is how I'm going to spend it. That's part of the budgeting process. But the other part is also looking at how things cost. So you might find that you say, I'll need 2 kilograms of sugar, but if you go to the market, you find that, yes, the prices have gone high, and therefore the budget has to increase, okay? So you always have to plan in line with the money you have, but also in line with how the prices are on the market. So it means that every component of how you're going to spend it needs to look at, and that's what we call assumptions in budgeting. What are the assumptions? I'm buying 2 kilograms. Why am I buying 2 kilograms of sugar? Maybe because we are 5 people in the home, and therefore that's what is enough. But if I'm one person in the home, do I need 2 kilograms of sugar? Maybe I need 1 kilogram. So you look at the things that are called assumptions is how are the prices on the market? How many people are you going to deal with in terms of the food you're going to buy? Is it enough or is it more? Maybe people are less. If it is transport, how much is transport by motor, by bus, by cab, by if you're driving, maybe you need fuel. So you look at all those. If I want to live here and go to town, how much is it on the motor? That is the thinking that you put into the budgeting process. So you say, okay, I will go to town 3 times this month. So if it is 1,000 to get to town, it means it's 3,000 because you know how much motors cost. So you can't just sit and think, I'll buy shoes of 5,000. Then you go there and find shoes at 7,000. So you need to have an idea of what the costs are on the market. Even whether it is a personal budget, whether it is government budget, they all look at how is the cost, you know. If you're going to buy things maybe outside Rwanda, what are the costs of, so let's say it's a school, and maybe they are going to buy computers. Maybe the computers will come from an outside country. So they have to look at the cost. What is the cost of computers? What is going to be the transport cost of bringing them in Rwanda? What are going to be the taxes that are going to be paid? Is there a need for maybe if they're setting up a lab, maybe that lab needs to be organized and, you know, different installations there. So all those things have to be costed, they have to be known, or at least estimated, so that then you put in the right figures, Okay? Yeah, so it's not just getting money and saying, I'm going to use this. There are things that are fixed. If it is a bank loan or any loan that you have from somewhere, you know how much to pay every month. So that one is okay. The figure is already known. But if it is things like going to buy things in the market, it's maybe even school fees change. Sometimes today the school fees is 20, tomorrow they've increased to 25. And so you always have to put in to know the facts, the prices that are around us. Yeah. So, so I wanted you also to understand what was it going to do. So we are looking. Want us to look at the importance of a country budgeting. Okay, and then we shall look at what is the relationship between a national budget and a personal budget. Basically, the reason and the importances of having a budget are the same, whether it is personal or whether it is national. Of course, because it's a government or it's a country, the budgets are usually big. They look at long-term investments and other things. They look at making sure that citizens are doing well and they're getting the best service that they can get. But the components and the process of budgeting, whether it is personal or for the country, they are all the same. Okay? Who knows how much, or have I already indicated it? You have already read. I was going to ask you, do you know the government's national budget? Do you know the period of budgeting for a country? For Rwanda? Let's take Rwanda.
I think it's 6 months.
No, when does budgeting start and when does it end? What is the financial year for the government?
It is that from
June.
on the 3rd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is July to June. Yes. Mm-hmm. Do you know how much the government of Rwanda has in its 25-26 budget?
7
This one read. You read my slides. Yes. So the period that we are in, the government just approved its next year's budget, and by next year we mean 2025-2026. So that means July to June next year. Okay. Now, with the government budgeting, you have money that you have put there down. I'm not going to try to tell budget is a loss. Alina is very rich, she's already losing money. So, so the national budget, and even though I've indicated them here, can you tell me some of the sources of revenue for the government, even though some of them are already here? Where does the government get money to budget? Yes.
From taxes.
Uh-huh.
Donations.
Hmm?
Donations.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Loans and interest.
Loans.
Fees and penalties.
Uh-huh.
Borrowings.
Borrowings. Yes. Benjamin.
You see?
They have said everything that you wanted to say.
Even saving, some saving they give.
Yes. And there are other revenues also that, what business does the government do? What do we do as a country?
Agriculture, imports.
Exactly. No, imports doesn't give us money, it takes our money. Exports.
Exports.
Yes. Yeah.
Even
So-
providing service, they
Yes.
pay fees for service.
What are some of the services that the government provides?
Like
Health
health
service.
service, education, even
Transport.
getting some forms like certificates that we get from somewhere Irembo, that fees we pay is
I was waiting for somebody to say Rainbow,
yeah.
because it makes a lot of money.
How?
everything is through Rainbow now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an example.
You're wondering how Rainbow makes money for the government?
Make too much.
How much money?
Fees.
Like,
For certificate of birth.
So when you're going to ask for any certificate, you go through Rainbow, and Rainbow is a company, so they pay taxes, right? And all those documents from the government. So if you're going to the birth certificate is a government document. When I'm going to get it, I pay. That money goes to the government because it's a government document that is being provided. If I'm going to get a passport or a laissez-passer, still, migration, I pay money to the migration. That is government money.
70,000.
Yeah, that's for,
Yeah.
no, for a passport now, I think it's 100,000. Yeah.
It's like 75.
No, it has increased.
For the calculation. When
Oh,
to
yeah,
Irem.
to-
So what
to-
you
to-
pay, the fee you pay to Irem.
To Rembo, yeah. So all that is government. It goes to the government because those are government services that they're providing for us. So the amount of money that Irembo makes is actually small compared to how much you're paying. Because when you pay, for example, for a passport, the passport is a service from the migration, and that money is government money. But when you go to declare to Irembo, the amount that Irembo takes is very limited. But still, Irembo as a company also pays taxes to government. So so there are different sources of revenue for the government. There's tourism, when people go to visit the gorillas, when they go to the national parks, when they do the city tours, all that is government revenue. Right? The matches, we host matches, you've been seeing BAL going on, that is revenue for us. So all these different components, they help the government to collect money. The penalties, yes, when people delay to pay their taxes, they get penalized. And so in return, as the government puts up, so we export coffee, we export tea, we have mining, so all these things are very important for the government to get revenue. So when the government gets revenue, and we have grants as well, so when government gets revenue, then they'll say, okay, we have this amount of money. Where do we prioritize? Where do we focus most? And of course, because government is usually focused on making sure that citizens get the best services, that's when they invest in things like agriculture, so that the farming is going on well. They focus on education, so that they build schools, infrastructure, they build roads, they build hospitals. So all those are key priorities for the government. And now, specifically for the government of Rwanda, have you heard of the National Transformation Strategy? NST1, the things they call NST1, NST2. Have you heard of it? So that's a document, that's a plan, that's a government strategy or plan that helps them to look at where the government wants to be or the country wants to be in the next 5 years. So what they do is they sit down, plan and say, our agriculture today is at this level. We want to increase maybe, to move from maybe 30% of exports of coffee and go to maybe 40%. So these are the things we are going to do. Increase farmers, increase land for growing coffee, train more farmers, put in place infrastructure to support more farmers. So they plan around that. Then we say, right now maybe we have 10,000 schools, but in the next 5 years we want to have 20,000 schools. So we are going to build more 10,000 schools. Where are we going to build them? Maybe Cyangugu, we are going to increase 5. Kibuye, we are going to put another 5. Kigali City, we are going to put another 3, like that. So there's that plan. So that plan helps them now, when it comes to budgeting, to see their priorities and say, okay, our target is to increase agriculture. We want to increase tourism. We are going to build, we are building a new airport in Ugesera. We want to have an international bigger airport in Ugesera. So they look at the key things that the country wants to achieve, so that when they go to budget, they allocate the money that is in direct, that is directly related to what the priorities have been. So that is what the National Transformation Strategy is. It is a document that shows how the government wants to transform the lives of people, how they want to transform the country, how they want to move the country from one point to another. And so when it comes to budgeting, they base on that document to start putting money now in the different areas where they try to invest.
Yes.
Okay? So they look at roads, how many roads are not in good condition. If we want to increase tourism, then you have to have good roads. So they say, okay, we're going to construct maybe thousands and thousands of kilometers from Kigali to Masaka. We're going to have another one in Kibuye. We're going to reconstruct or repair all those things. Okay? So that's how it's done. So healthcare, is one of the most important things in Rwanda, and they'll say how much are we going to put into making sure that everybody has mutuelle de santé, and how much services in healthcare can they get when they have mutuelle de santé. So it's things like that. So like I was saying, it's usually a plan for 1 year or 12 months, and shows how much you are going to collect from taxes. And so when the budget process is going on, is that they will first show how much revenue they are going to collect from taxes, from all the things that we've said. And then they come look at the things that they're going to invest in. And some of the things they look at are long-term, others are short-term. So it could be, say we are going to build 5 hospitals in the next 5 years, but this year we are going to build 2. So they'll have a 5-year plan, but it will just be going in bits and pieces. So they'll say 2 in this year, the next year another 2, the next year another 1. So that they already see where the hospitals are going to be and plan ahead, but it's a long-term investment that cannot be done just in 1 year. But they will allocate funds for this year, then in the next year they allocate another component of funds, and then another year like that, until all the 5 hospitals are built. Okay? So, so the 12 months usually budget is to deal with things in that period, that they've planned for that period. But those things may not necessarily be completed in 1 year. They just go distributing them over a period of time. Okay? So it's like you saying, you're all in senior 6, right? So when you finish senior 6, let's say you go to university. When you're in university, you say, I'm going to spend 4 years in university. 4 years in university, in first year, I'm going to spend maybe 1 million. That's going to be the school fees. But the plan is, I'm going to spend 4 years. So that means you're already planning to say, I need 4 million because I'm going to spend 4 years. Let's say you even have that 4 million now, but you're not going to go and spend all of it at once. You're going to say, okay, my 4 million, this year I'll pay maybe 600,000 because that's what I have. Next year, because I will have a balance from the previous year, I'll pay maybe the balance plus 1 million. So maybe I'll pay 1.6, you know. So you keep moving into the period that you're going to pay the money, but with the amount of money that you have. So you already have the plan of 5 years. You already know how much it's going to cost you in 4 years, but you pay it as the year comes. You don't take all the 4 million and give it to the school, although it's also okay. Sometimes it's okay. If you have it, you just give it to them. but if you want to keep paying every year, then that. So even the government does that when they have long-term projects. So for example, we are putting up an airport in Bugesera, which is going to be bigger than the one at Kigali International Airport and Kanombe Airport. The government already puts a budget for that, for the whole project to be completed, for the whole airport to be complete and start working. But they can't do it in 1 year because there are other things that need to be done. So what they've done is, every year, how much are we going to spend in terms of developing the budget, and when do we intend to finish it? So the planning becomes, if it's a 10-year project, they say in the first 2 years we'll do this, first 2 years, another 2 years, another 2 years, another, like that. Or the first 1 year, every year, how much are we putting in until the whole project is done, okay?
Yes.
And then there are also projects that are done in that particular and they're finished, okay? So if they say they're going to put up, let's say, in this year they're going to build a road maybe from Kisimenti to Kimirongo, that's a very short road, okay? So they could say, this one will do it this year and it will be finished. Because it's short, it's not a big project. But for big projects and long-term projects, those, the budgets come in different years. So like you said, this year's budget is going to be 7 trillion. And actually some of the key things that are being focused on is, again, the airport, agriculture, electricity access, education, and healthcare. Those are some of the key areas that they focus on. So like we said then, even the government, it's very important that the government knows everywhere their money is going. So that's why, do you usually see, who knows how we monitor the expenses? How do we report expenses to who is in charge of making sure that the government's money is being used correctly? the Office of the Auditor General. Have you ever seen the Office of the Auditor General presenting a report? You don't watch TV? So every year, the Office of the Auditor General has to give accountability of how the money was used. So sometimes money has been spent the way it was supposed to be spent. Sometimes it has not been spent the way it was spent. Sometimes it has not been spent. That's also a big problem. If you have budgeted for something and you actually don't do it, that's also a problem. What was the problem? Why did you not spend it? Especially when, especially for like government, it is important to understand why it was not done, because that means if you're supposed to build 5 schools and you did not build them, or you built only 2, what was the challenge? Yes. Was it? Did you not have suppliers of materials? Did you not have workers? Did you not do procurement of the construction companies? Exactly what was done. So for a government that is budgeting and is implementing projects, that becomes a problem. Because that means the people are not getting the services that they need when you don't actually do the projects that you've done, and then we find that the money has not been used. So in terms of government budgeting, when they put in place a budget, there's also monitoring mechanisms to see when will this project start, what do we need to make sure that this project starts, when do we pay the services that for the project, and when is the project supposed to be completed. So all those things are in process to make sure that the money that was budgeted for is actually used, because what they're going to do is a service to the citizens. It is a service to the people. And therefore, if it's not done, it's the people that are suffering. So that's why the Office of the Auditor General is always looking out to see are projects being completed, is the money being used in the right way, you know, things like that. Not is it being taken by Benjamin and is disappearing. And those are some of the challenges, of course. Budgets are in place, very beautiful budgets and all that, but sometimes a lot of challenges come in terms of implementing what happens. So there has to be constant monitoring of, you know, the budgets, how they're being used, are the things that are being said to be done, the ones that are being done, or have we diverted? Now, there are also times when something comes up that is abrupt, that is an emergency.
Yes.
So, for example, during COVID, you know, COVID came without anybody knowing, and the government had already budgeted. I think we had the lockdown in March, and we're already dealing with that year's budget. We're actually almost completing. It was like 3 months to completion of that budget. So then you have COVID. Maybe you don't have you don't even have medication to COVID. You don't have anything to deal with COVID. People get locked down. They are not working. They don't have money. People are dying of hunger because there's no food. So how do you as a country deal with that situation? So it was important that the government sits back and adjusts the budgets. Some things had to be left out. Some of the things that were going to be done in that period, they had to be dropped so that they deal with emergencies. They deal with healthcare. You know, immediately they set up hospitals where they would take people with COVID. Then they had to provide food for families that did not have food. They had to put in places measures to deal with COVID. You know, the infrastructure where people go. They had to increase the police on the streets so that, you know, they're dealing with challenges of COVID. So those were things that needed a lot of money, which money they had not planned for. They had not seen coming. So the government needs to be in a position where if an emergency comes like that, you need to go back and immediately adjust the budgets, right? So there has to be that room of, if we are going to put up 4 schools, and now we have a health issue, do we still go ahead and build the schools, or do we now focus on the healthcare? So then you drop 2 schools maybe and focus on the healthcare, especially that the schools were also closed and people need to eat. Yeah. So instead of building a school, when people are not going to go to school, you'd rather get it and buy food and give people to eat. So it is that kind of, the reason why those budgets are monitored is to see, do we have room for adjusting in case something comes? You remember there was Ibiza? I don't remember how Ibiza is called in English actually. The hazards, yes. So people were displaced. So when people get displaced because of heavy rains and all that, now they have moved from their homes or they have lost their homes and go to live in another area. Those people have nothing. They have lost their things. So the government has provided for them. Again, medical care, food, housing. So those are things that the government deals with in emergency cases. And so the budget needs to be set to be able to say, if we have an emergency, what are some of the things that we can adjust or leave out, and then deal with some of the things. So the 7 trillion for Rwanda is what is going to be dealt with in this financial year, but it doesn't mean that that's it. It doesn't mean that that's fixed. There could be something. There could be a reason why the government adjusts or Rwanda adjusts and then deal with the other issues. Okay. So do you have any questions there? Because we are going to take a short break and then we'll come back and see different areas again around budgeting. But if anybody has a question now or a comment, I can take it, especially my friend behind there. Yes.
Thank you. I have a question. You have said that you can't plan for something you don't have. But my question is this. For example, I have business. In the business, there is a data about yes. Can you plan for those data, or you have to neglect them because you don't have money, but you expect to get them from you expect to get money from them? Can you plan for it or no?
So I can say yes and no. Yes, because sometimes the people who owe you money, they have given you a payment plan. They've told you, I owe you 100,000. This week I'll give you 10. Next week I'll give you 10. So they've shown you already how they're going to pay. You already have it, and they're already doing it. If they're already doing it, and you can see that they're actually doing it. So you plan for the one that you keep planning for the amount that is coming in. If it's this month and you know they're going to give you 10,000 this month, you plan for that 10,000. You don't plan for the one they haven't given you. So for example, if I say this month I'm going to pay 10,000, in your plans you say, okay, I expect to get 10,000 from Julian. This is how I'm going to use it. But if I owe you 10,000 and you don't know whether I'm going to give it to you or not, it's hard to plan for it. So it means if you don't have a plan from the person who owes you money, or you don't know when that money is going to be paid, it's hard to plan for it. So it's always important to plan for what you know that is already there, or that you are sure that it's actually coming in. So the time it comes in, if I have not told you when I'm paying you, but then next week I pay you, then you can take that money, put it now in the plan, and add it in the budgeting process or in the plan that you have, because you have gotten it. But if you have not told you when I'm going to pay you and all that, it's very hard you can't assume that I'll pay you. So then, maybe tuzaja mumanza, and then more costs because nimanza nazo zikona ni mafranga. So it is always important to only consider the money that you have. If the other money comes in that they owe you, good. Then you also, now you see where was I falling short, then you add it in. Even the government does like that. They only budget for the money that has been confirmed. So for example, we get, the government gets grants from other countries. Mm-hmm. So for example, the US will come and say, we are going to fund education with $1 million US. If they have not signed a contract and confirmed when that money will be coming in, the government can't plan for it. They will only plan for money that they know they already have, whether it is in a contract or in the account or something. So it has to be money that you already know that is there. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you. You have told us that when in emergency cases like hazard, the government adjusts the budget to solve that hazard. But when the government is doing the budget, doesn't plan for an emergency cases, the money that can solve that cases?
No, so that's what I'm saying. The budget is not it's not a permanent document that if we have made a budget and it's like let's say I have a budget, personal budget, and somehow a family member dies. I never planned or budgeted for somebody dying, right? But somebody has died. So I need to find money to actually process the burial. So that means I need to adjust my budget. If I was supposed to go maybe for a holiday in Kibuye, I'll stop and first deal with the emergency that has come in. Okay? So it means even at the country level, that's what happens. There are things that have been budgeted as priorities, and then there are other things, of course, that will be done. But if an emergency happens, then they go back to that budget and say, okay, what is it that we can leave out and deal with this emergency? So let's say if there was, and I just gave an example, if you had planned to build maybe 5 schools, or maybe 5 markets, actually, you know the markets that where we go to buy food. So maybe they are planning to build 5 markets in the country, around the country. And then COVID hits or the hazards hit because of heavy rains. The markets can wait, because it's not like people are not buying food anyway. Nobody so which means we can still go and buy food. It doesn't mean that we can't buy food. But the money that was going to build those markets, let's use it to support the people that have been affected by the heavy rains. So that's how they adjust. They go back to the budget that was made, look at the things that we can do without or that we can do in the next year or another year, and take that money and allocate it to the things that have now become an emergency.
Okay, that means that there's no money they put aside that can help in emergency.
So there are emergencies that you'll never see coming. COVID was an emergency that we didn't see coming. When the heavy rains fall, it's an emergency that we don't see coming. The money that you put for an emergency is for a specific project. So for example, if we say you're going to put up a hospital, for example, you do a study, the area that you're going to put the hospital is this, and so whoever is doing the construction project always puts, but this is now not the government, it's the supplier of who's going to do that. So for them, what they do is they do an estimated cost of building a hospital, based on where it's going to be, based on how it's going to look like, based on the standard and everything. So they take that, estimate the cost, and put it there. And that is the budget that they're going to actually spend. For them, that's the money that they're not going to go beyond, okay? Then you, as a supplier, they give you a contract to construct the hospital, okay? For you who is constructing, sometimes you know in construction there may be some emergencies. It could be somebody falling from the building and falling down. That's an emergency that comes with work. It could be that maybe where you're going to construct, there was something that you never foresaw. So for you as the person who is going to construct the hospital, you have to put those emergencies in your budget, in your costs, okay? So the budget that you give to the government, for them to give you a contract, you deal with it. But the government does not plan for emergencies. For them, they estimate what a project is going to cost, and then give contracts to people that are going to implement. So these people that are going to implement, for them, they have to think through and say, what are we going to do? So that means they're thinking, what quality of materials are we going to use? So they think through everything. But when it comes to the government, you can't budget for emergencies that you have not. You budget for what you want to do. If an emergency comes, then you adjust the budget according to exactly what you want to do, where you want to deal with. So you can't say ngo uyu mwaka dushobora kuzagira ibiza cyangwa abantu bashobora kuzapfa muri mwahantu runaka.
But the government can make the contingent plan or plan B or something.
They adjust the budgets. They revisit the budgets. They don't put a contingency plan to say in case habaye intambara.
In case habaye visa, we can.
What we do is that you don't plan for a visa. What you do is you actually put in place projects that are going to prevent us from e-visa.
Oh, okay.
So it means, let's say, so let's say the Mubungubu, when we went through COVID, it was an experience. So what happens is now, after going through that experience, we've learned that there could be any other health hazard, health outbreak. If that happened, what have we done? Are we prepared to deal with it? So which means now we have infrastructure in place, we have processes in place that can help us deal with, because we have already gone through it and we have experience, right? Same thing, Nibiza, same thing with any other, maybe even a school falling, you know. So what happens is that everything that happens gives you lessons to plan ahead. So in this case, you don't plan for it, but you say, okay, if we want to deal with environmental issues, what are we doing today? What projects are we implementing to help to prevent us from any other environmental hazard that might come? It might not be 100%, but right now there are things that have been put in place to help the environmental hazards having an impact like it had before, right? But the country will not think and say, let's go and buy, what example can I give? Let's go and buy more guns, because we're going to have a war, or maybe we might have a war next year. No, they can't do that, because nobody plans for a war, nobody plans for a hazard, nobody. But do we actually have enough infrastructure in case that happens? So that's why every ministry always focuses on something. So the agriculture ministry will say, for us to be able to make sure that we increase our agricultural produce or support our farmers or do this, these are the things that we are doing. Also based on the different studies that they do, based on the experiences, based on what even other countries are doing, especially those that are in the same region. So they use best practices, or they use what other people are also doing to prevent such things and put certain measures in place. It's not because they're thinking something is going to happen, it's because they're thinking this is the best practice, number one, but also if ever something happens, are we ready to deal with it? If you look at the Ministry of Health, same thing. They'll say, okay, if we had an outbreak of a disease, any disease, it may not even be as bad as COVID, do we have enough hospitals? Because remember, the population is also growing. Do we have enough hospitals to deal with the number of the big population that is growing? So it is thinking of, in the next 5 years, we'll have a population maybe of 20 million. Do we have enough hospitals and schools to actually, do we have enough hospitals to actually deal with these people if they came to the hospitals? So in their mind, they're thinking, just to avoid any issues, let's build more hospitals. Then the Ministry of Defense. It's not like they're planning to have a war, but they will say, we are training, every year they train new soldiers. Each of those soldiers is going to be doing different jobs around the country, some of them even outside the country. What do we need for them to actually deliver on their job? Do we have enough ammunition, or do we have enough infrastructure? Do we have, what kind of skills have we given them? Are we prepared for anything as a defense, as a Ministry of Defense? So every ministry is thinking of their mandate, how they can better do their job. Education, same thing. Environment, same thing. So environment, their mandate, their job is to make sure that the environment we live in, the country we live in, with all the mountains around us, we are still safe. So what are they doing in terms of making sure that the mountains are they are still in their own place, that they are not moving? What are they doing in terms of rains coming? If they're heavy, what will happen? If it's very hot, what will happen? So because that's their daily job, they keep coming up with projects and measures to put in place to help deal with that. It's not because they're thinking, next time we might have emergency, it's because they're thinking this is what we need to do on a daily basis. So they always plan around that. And so all those come together and they make the national budget. So the national budget comes from all the ministries and government agencies. Then that budget now, every ministry is given their portion of the budget to go and implement these things.
Question.
Yes.
Okay, when the government make a budget, like for building the school, then she failed achieving the goal because of due to the emergency cases. What can happen in the government? Like fail in achieving the goal for building the school.
That actually happens all the time. It's not everything that they plan that they actually do. So if they have planned to build a school and an emergency happens, they have to deal with the emergency first. The school stops until if the emergency is affecting building the school. So the school has to stop and they first deal with the emergency, okay? And then if the budget that was for the school has gone to deal with the emergency, then the school is stopped and put into the next year budget. Yeah.
So what if the government gets unexpected money, like they are planned for the budget of this year, and then when it's in the middle of the year, they get like $2 million from which country?
Yeah.
I don't know. So what do they do with that money? Do they continue the budget or add it to the next year?
So you know, the thing is that with budgeting, you never have enough money. You no go have million, it will never be enough. So what the government does, they budget based on what the government has, but it's never enough. That's why we still don't have enough schools, that's why we still don't have enough hospitals, that's why we're still building roads and doing all these things. So when they budget, and then in the middle of the year, somebody or a country or donor gives the government money, every year the government, there's what they call budget revision. So the budget is for 12 months, but after 6 months they do a budget revision. Now the budget revision is to see, are we still on the right track? Have we overspent what we were supposed to do in this period? Has the money reduced, and therefore we need to adjust and reduce money along the way? So it is really reviewing the status and where they are in terms of implementing the projects and the budget that they have. So if the money comes in the middle, they'll look at the priorities that they had. Priorities maybe never had enough money, and if they were planning on building 5 hospitals, maybe they couldn't because they don't have enough money, they decided to build 2. So if that money comes in, they start to allocate again to different priorities. So they'll say, maybe we had only 10 billion for hospitals. So now that we have $2 million, we are going to add another on the hospitals, we add another on education, we add another on roads. So they start to allocate again. That's one way of doing it. Because there's that period of revising the budget. It could be revised increasingly or decreasingly. The other option is also they could say, let's stay where we were with the budget of this year, and we put this money into next year. And we start with it. Yes, we move it to the next budget. But sometimes the person who is giving you the money also might want you to start using it there, in that particular year. So if the conditions are that we are giving you 1 million, but we want you to use half of it this year, then you capture it into the budget as you revise, and then put the other one in the next year. So it's always, it depends on how they feel. They could put it in that year, revise and add onto the things that did not have enough, or maybe even do a project that they didn't have money for, and say,
They come up with a new budget.
It could be, so you see sometimes when you're budgeting, there are things that you leave out because you didn't have enough money. So if it was left out, it could be that, okay, now that we have money, we know that this project, we needed it, but we didn't have money. Now that we have money, let's actually bring it in and add it into the budget at the time of revising the budget. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. Can you differentiate for me budgeting to survive and budgeting to grow well?
To go well.
To grow well.
To grow well.
Yeah.
Okay, so every budget, you know the 50-30-20 rule that I told you?
What?
The 50-30 rule. So 50 is the where you spend with your needs, 30% for your wants, 20% your savings.
Oh.
Every time you save, you're creating wealth. So that money that you're saving, one, you're either saving it and making an interest. So it's being saved somewhere where it's making an interest, okay? So you're investing in something. So you're already growing your wealth. So the part that you're spending, that is for survival. You're buying food, you're buying clothing, you're housing, the things that you actually need in life, the things that you can't do without. That is, you're making a budget to survive because you need to survive, okay? But the savings are what creates the wealth. So are you investing it? Are you saving it in an account and it's making for you a profit? How are you dealing with the savings? Are you just keeping the money there saving so that you deal with an emergency at some point? So even the savings, you need to think, what is it I'm saving for? Am I saving to invest? Am I saving to deal with an emergency at some point? Exactly what you're saving for. So if you're thinking of saving to make wealth, then you need to see, where do I invest? Some people buy land, others buy houses, others invest in capital markets. We discussed capital markets last time. Others invest in what we call Illumina, and they make for you an interest. Others open bank accounts, and you know there's something we call what do you call it? Banks have accounts where you open an account and it's a blocked account. You just keep putting money and they generate for you an interest, and you can withdraw it at some point. So it depends on exactly what you want to do with your savings. Others just put money on the side in case I have an emergency, in case I get a child who's sick, in case I lose somebody, in case at that time. But many people, of course, want to invest because at the end of the day, what you're saving needs to actually generate more money for you.
So you can do that categories of budget at the same time.
Yeah, when you're budgeting personal budgets, you have to. It's important that you actually save. Yeah. So what you're saving is actually what is you're looking at as creating for you more wealth or creating for you more money.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's actually the same budget. It's budgeting. These are my needs. These are my wants. This is what I want. This is how much I'm going to save. How am I going to save it? I'm going to save it like this. Then, yeah. Okay, so let's take a break, and for about 15 minutes, then we'll continue. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Basic Education Board Multimedia Production Studio is on a mission to transform education through technology. With a vision to become a leading multimedia production hub, the studio is dedicated to enhancing digital learning, fostering innovative educational content, and ensuring accessible, high-quality education for all.
It will also enable teachers to improve themselves and support each other's growth. We aim to bring this program to all schools.
To achieve this, the studio focuses on developing high-quality multimedia learning materials, supporting cost-effective digitization, improving capacity, and ensuring learning continuity. By expanding broadcast channels and streamlining production, it aims to make education more efficient and widely available. The studio adds significant value by reducing costs, increasing in-house production capacity, and ensuring rapid content delivery through social media, television, and radio. From multimedia learning materials and live science experiments to edutainment programs and digital textbooks, the studio embraces a diverse range of content. Its delivery methods include pre-recorded and live-streamed programs, talk shows, documentaries, and sign language videos, ensuring inclusivity and engagement for all learners. Through innovation and technology, the Rwanda Basic Education Board is shaping the future of education, making learning more dynamic, interactive, and accessible. The Rwanda Basic Education Board Multimedia Production Studio is on a mission to transform education through technology. With a vision to become a leading multimedia production hub, the studio is dedicated to enhancing digital learning, fostering innovative educational content, and ensuring accessible, high-quality education for all.
It will also enable teachers to improve themselves and support each other's growth. We aim to bring this program to all schools.
To achieve this, the studio focuses on developing high-quality multimedia learning materials, supporting cost-effective digitization, improving capacity, and ensuring learning continuity. By expanding broadcast channels and streamlining production, it aims to make education more efficient and widely available. The studio adds significant value by reducing costs, increasing in-house production capacity, and ensuring rapid content delivery through social media, television, and radio. From multimedia learning materials and live science experiments to edutainment programs and digital textbooks, the studio embraces a diverse range of content. Its delivery methods include pre-recorded and live-streamed programs, talk shows, documentaries, and sign language videos, ensuring inclusivity and engagement for all learners. Through innovation and technology, the Rwanda Basic Education Board is shaping the future of education, making learning more dynamic, interactive, and accessible. The Rwanda Basic Education Board Multimedia Production Studio is on a mission to transform education through technology. With a vision to become a leading multimedia production hub, the studio is dedicated to enhancing digital learning, fostering innovative educational content, and ensuring accessible, high-quality education for all.
It will also enable teachers to improve themselves and support each other's growth. We aim to bring this program to all schools.
To achieve this, the studio focuses on developing high-quality multimedia learning materials, supporting cost-effective digitization, improving capacity, and ensuring learning continuity. By expanding broadcast channels and streamlining production, it aims to make education more efficient and widely available. The studio adds significant value by reducing costs, increasing in-house production capacity, and ensuring rapid content delivery through social media, television, and radio. From multimedia learning materials and live science experiments to edutainment programs and digital textbooks, the studio embraces a diverse range of content. Its delivery methods include pre-recorded and live-streamed programs, talk shows, documentaries, and sign language videos, ensuring inclusivity and engagement for all learners. Through innovation and technology, the Rwanda Basic Education Board is shaping the future of education, making learning more dynamic, interactive, and accessible.
This annual national dialogue will serve as a platform to reflect our progress, identify challenges, and prioritize actions to improve inclusive education. Together, we will remain steadfast in our mission to ensure education for all, leaving no one behind.
Together, we can ensure teachers are supported and equipped to fully have inclusive classrooms, empowered to educate the decision makers and leaders of our shared tomorrow.
It is a privilege to join you today for this two-day national dialogue to engage in meaningful discussions on the critical topics of inclusive and special needs in education. As we deliberate, let us remember that inclusion benefits everyone. When we embrace diversity, we enrich our education system and society. By supporting learners with disability, we'll cultivate compassion, resilience, and innovation in our classroom and communities. Let us use this dialogue as a platform to listen, share experiences, and co-create solutions. Together, we can build an education system that truly embodies our values of equity, dignity, and excellence. Thank you, and I look forward to a productive discussion ahead.
So, welcome back from your break. I'm going to start off, before we continue discussing the budgets, we had some questions from our online students, and I'd like to first take some time to go through them. So we have a question from Innocent Nyonjira. He asked, how does the government prioritize spending in the national budget? How do they decide funding allocation between education, healthcare, and infrastructure when resources are limited? That's a very important question, actually. And that's exactly actually what the government goes through when they're budgeting. How do they prioritize? Given the limited amount of money that the government usually has, how do they set their priorities? Okay? So, so what the government does every time they're going to budget, one, they look at what is existing, what have we been doing in the past period, okay? That's number one. Number two, they also look at trends of certain things. Number three, there's a lot of budget, there's a lot of consultation when it comes to budgets, when they're making budgets. They consult civil society, they consult teachers, they will consult doctors, they do a lot of consultations. They go around the country doing consultations. Those consultations normally inform or they provide inputs into how the budget is going to be prioritized. That's number one. Number two, remember what I told you, what is called the National Transformation Strategy. There's, in terms of leading a country or even leading an organization, usually the leadership looks ahead of what needs to be done. As a country, where do we want to be in the next maybe 50 years or in the next 20 years? And there are things that are standard, based on best practices, based on what other countries do, based on what other economies do. So there's a lot of things that are considered when a country is budgeting or is planning on how they're going to spend their money. So the basics, the basic needs, what we're calling the basic needs, the ones, you know, and then for at the personal level, even the government looks at that. For you to have citizens that are healthy, that are okay, that are educated, that for an economy to actually develop, citizens must be healthy, right? So the healthcare must be provided. Infrastructure for healthcare, hospitals must be provided. If we want to grow in terms of bringing in revenues, we know that mostly on the African continent, agriculture is a big component of what the African continent is made of, including Rwanda. So agriculture has to be a huge component of that. Reason being that agriculture gives us food, that's number one, but we also sell to get revenues. Okay? So the priorities are really done based on what do we have as a country, what can we use to bring in revenue as a country, and what do we need to do to make sure that people of Rwanda are actually well and they're okay. Do you know the biggest population of people that we have in Rwanda? Who is the biggest population we have? The youth. The youth are the big. You guys are the biggest population we have. Yes. So if you're saying the biggest population of Rwanda is the youth, how do you make sure that the youth are actually the ones leading in the economy? Because they're the people that are still strong, they're still young, and they're the ones who need to be educated. So education becomes a priority because the youth are the biggest population, right? So they look at different things for them to prioritize. Infrastructure. If you're talking about tourism, which is one of our biggest components of revenue generation, you can't talk about bringing in people to increase your tourism revenues when you don't have good roads, when you don't have hotels, when you don't have people who are skilled in providing hospitality services. So then the tourism sector is given a priority because there are things that you need, for people to come in, they need to find that they actually have things that they can enjoy in Rwanda. So the priorities are usually done based on different things, based on consultations, based on where the economy is going, and based on what the government is looking at as some of the things that are going to help both the economy and the people develop bagatera imbere. So nukuvuga ngo ureba abantu abanyarwanda nibo ba mbere target kuko nibo bahabwa service. Kugira ngo babeho neza ni iki dukeneye gukora. Bakeneye kwiga, bakeneye kugira ubuzima bwiza, dukeneye no kwinjiza amafaranga kugira ngo nibyo bikorwe. So those are things that the government puts into priority. Bakeneye security. So the security part becomes a huge component of of the country. So the priorities are usually done based on some of the things that are very important for the country to serve its people, and also get money to actually implement some of those projects. The international airport that is coming up, that is a huge project based on our tourism needs. We are talking about bringing in people, our tourism, making it high-end or becoming a high-level touristic destination. If without an airport, if people want to fly in here with their jets, they will not. So that's why we need a big airport. If we want to bring in a lot of other airlines beyond the ones we have now, we need to have a bigger airport. So then we have more people coming in, more people spending their money in the country and building businesses here, but also doing tourism. So those are some of the things that the government looks at. So that was to Innocent's question. And so because of the limited amount of money, they allocate based on the things that are top priority, and then the other areas they're given, either put into a different year, financial year, or they're given less amount of money, but the focus is usually on the things that are really important for an economy to develop. Another question, I think this is the same. How does the government allocate limited budget resources among different sectors? It's the same. So the process of budgeting for a government is that after all those consultations and everything, every ministry or every government agency comes up with its own budget. So for example, REB will look at how many schools they have, how many students do we have, what are the needs, how many textbooks will students need in this academic year, how many students are we going to enroll, how many students are going to sit exams, how many are completing senior 3 and senior 6, how many students are in a classroom, therefore how many desks do we need. Now we have school feeding programs. How many students do we have in a school? How much money are we going to need for school feeding? Maybe sports activities. How many schools do we have? How many playgrounds are we going to put in each school? Maybe it's just volleyball and basketball, so those are two. Maybe it's just volleyball. Any of you is a sports person? Do you play any games?
Yes.
Who plays what? What do you play?
Everything, like
football?
Yes. And also basketball.
Okay. So you go to mashuri yanyu mfogana na timu mkoresha? And the girls? Nothing. Ali, you don't play any games? Basket? Who plays basket?
Yvonne plays.
Yvonne plays?
Yes.
What do you play? Basket?
Handball.
Handball. Oh, really? Interesting. So again, the answer is the same. Again, the resources are allocated based on the importance or the level of priority that sector falls in. So for example, the IT sector, we have a Ministry of ICT, right? And again, like I mentioned, the biggest population is youth. The youth have to adapt to using technology, whether it's in education, whether they're doing their business, whether it's transacting anything. You guys have to be the next generation that knows how to use technology. So, where the world is moving, or where our economies are moving, if you don't know how to use technology, you'll probably not even be able to do anything. So the government has to invest in technology to make sure that its people understand how to use. That's why you see many of these things have been automated. We use less paper in so many things. So for example, now the ICT sector is one of those sectors that has a priority, especially in education. In education, in healthcare, they're using a lot of technology. So it's important that the sector that is trending, that's number one, but has less, is going to provide smooth running of businesses. That is the sector that gets focused on. So they look at the priorities, but ICT is one of the biggest components the Rwandan government is investing in. And so when they're budgeting, they're looking at what is it that is going to enable businesses, that is going to help us move smoothly, provide good services with limited bureaucracy and all that. And then that's where the allocation is. So it's all prioritizing based on where the government wants to be, based on where it's seeing its people be. National budget ni chi mu magambo arambuye. National budget mu byukuri ni igenamigambi. That's the simplest word that I can use. Ni igenamigambi y'igihugu. Yes. Icyo leta ishaka kugeraho cyangwa igihugu cyo gishaka kugeraho ni iki, barakoresha amafaranga angahe kugira ngo babigereho. So the priorities twavuze hano hejuru zose kugira ngo bazigereho, iyo planning process ni gikorwa ni ikihe, amafaranga azagikora ni ikihe, ni bande bazagikora, kizakorwa ryari, what is the outcome. That is the planning. Mu magambo arambuye ni igenamigambi y'igihugu, ni uko bagena gahunda z'igihugu ko ziteye n'amafaranga azakoreshwa kubikora. Why does the country not budget for hazards, and when they occur, the money used to fix those infrastructures is got from government? Interesting question. So this is what I wanted to clarify. So when you look at the process of budgeting, like I mentioned, every entity of government, every ministry, every organization that is affiliated with government budget, when they are planning, it's not that they don't think of an emergency that may happen. And the reason why we have every ministry in place and every government entity is because they are in charge of that particular thing. Like I said, let's say the Ministry of Defense, they're in charge of the national security. So for them, when they're budgeting, they budget salaries, they will budget uniforms for soldiers, they will budget for training for soldiers, they will budget for maybe peacekeeping to support another country in terms of peacekeeping, other things. In their budget, they will usually put an emergency, not because they're thinking a war might happen or something might happen, but they're saying in case there's a security emergency, okay, that money comes. So every ministry has that component. That's why when a hazard comes, if it is health related, the Ministry of Health is the one that deals with it. If it is security related, the Ministry of Defense is the one that deals with it. If it is this, that is it is that. So it is usually at the ministry level that they are thinking of those emergencies, right? So when that money all comes together, the country will not say, we have this total emergency. Yes, there will be something around emergency, but it will not be specific to something. But it will be specifically distributed in the ministries. So it is just the same way you as a person, you budget. You say, okay, I'm going to budget for ABCD, and then I'll keep 10,000 just in case. It could be an accident I get, it could be if my computer breaks down, what will happen, if something, it is you planning ahead, okay? But remember, with the hazard, you don't know how much trouble will be made. You don't know how big COVID is, you don't know how many people it will affect, you don't know if bizakubita igihugu cyose cyangwa bizakubita Kibuye gusa cyangwa something like that. So yes, there's a level of thinking emergency and putting aside some money for that emergency, but it does not mean that the country has actually gotten a huge budget that is there that will deal with emergencies anytime, anywhere they come. It is very, very specific to the entity that is budgeting, so that if something happens, then we go to that ministry and say, what was your plan at the beginning? But also sometimes it's beyond just one ministry. It may affect the whole country. So then that's when they now come back to the budget and say, okay, the Ministry of Education, we think you don't have to build 5 schools. Let's take the money for 2 schools and add it onto this fund. Let's go to the ICT and say, you are supposed to buy 1,000 computers, just buy 500. Let's take this money. So that's how they do. They're revisiting the budget and adjusting the budget here and there across sectors to deal with one issue. Because most of the time when that happens, even though it's aligned in a certain ministry, it is still a national issue. Yadi visa, it's a national issue. If it's a health hazard, it's a national issue. There are some things that are the hazards are usually, they become national issues. They don't become just one component. Okay?
Question.
Yes.
Okay. You are a businessman. Then you make a budget for doing the business. Then after a certain period, the hazard become all the emergency cases. Your business become off. So what the strategies you can use for in order doing your business and covering that emergency case.
Okay, good question. So businesses deal with emergencies depending on what kind of emergency it is. Can you give me an example of what you're thinking? So that I don't.
Someone dies in your family, then you are the one who pick the person who can help that person who dies, like buying second.
Did you hear her question? Yes. Who can answer that question?
Okay, when you get a problem in the business, the money you plan ahead, you can use it for that certain program. And when the actual time comes, like in the future, you get the savings and try to improve as you go.
Yes.
Thank you. By my side, the way I can manage that situation, we have started the 50-30-20 law. Okay. During the best operation of my business, I had kept the money for saving for future emergencies. So when I face the challenge like that, I can use the saving money for handling that situation.
Anybody else? So that is the whole essence, or that's the whole importance of actually people saving, so that you deal with emergencies. But let's say that the emergency comes and you never saved, but you're running a business. The business is running anyway. It is making money, unless it's not making money. But if you're saying you're a business person and you're still operating, that's because the operations are going well and you're making money, right? So if somebody dies in the family, of course you take some of the money that you have made, even if it's not yet saved, but you have money in the business that you're using, right? And you deal with the emergency, which means, yes, it will push you back a bit, because maybe it was supposed to do something else and now somebody has died and you have to deal with that issue. It pushes you back a bit. It maybe puts you into negatives. But because this is an emergency that you have to deal with, burial processes and all that, then you have to take money from the business and use it. Okay? But if you have saved, like she mentioned, if you have been saving, then you have savings where you can take money from. But if it's an emergency that leads to your business closing, your business failing and you close completely, then there's also a process of closing your business. So generally, legal businesses, when you become bankrupt, there's a process. You go to RDB and there's a whole process of declaring your business as bankrupt. So two things. If it has reached a point where it is closing completely, you do the process of closing it, so that even Rwanda Revenue knows that it has closed, it's no longer operating, and therefore they will not be counting taxes on your business. Or maybe it is at a point where you can push and it still, makes money and survives. So that way, now what you do is you look at your operations. Where can I reduce the costs? Okay? Maybe I have too many staff. Maybe I have 6 staff. I can use 3 and still survive. So you lay off the 3. They go and you stay with the 3. Maybe we use a lot of electricity, so you try to figure out which machines can we not use on a daily basis so that we reduce our cost of electricity. Maybe you use a lot of water. How do you control your costs to make sure that your business keeps running? Okay? But once an emergency has come, if you have money, you always figure out how to get money out of whether it is your salary or whether it is your business to deal with an emergency. If you don't have money at all, that's how some people now, they go to borrow. Maybe you don't have it there, but you will have it next month. So you go and borrow to deal with the emergency, and then you plan on how you're going to pay it. Yeah. Somebody have a question? Okay. So, I wanted us to look at why it is even important for a country to budget. Because, I mean, look at like our country. Do they have to consult us to budget for us? Have they ever consulted you?
No, but it's your needs. You know you need it.
They know, mostly the country leadership knows what citizens need based on international standards, based on what Rwanda looks like, based on what we have and we have not achieved yet. So yes, they do consultations with different sectors, different organizations and all that to understand whether their priorities are really what people need, but they cannot consult everyone in the country, okay? But the reason also they do it that way is to make sure that they have really allocated resources to the things that actually people need. So it is usually done to make sure that there's impact among the communities. There's impact on people, there's impact on everything that we are doing. So they are really giving the people the priorities that a human being needs. They're dealing with the needs first, not the wants. The other reason also why they do budgeting is to ensure that there's economic stability and growth. Because one, like we said, you cannot budget without money. You have to have a basis of where you're budgeting. So the resources or the sources of revenue that the government has is the source of revenue that helps the government to be stable economically. So everything that we mentioned and other things that we may not have mentioned, they're the things that help the government to budget so that the economy is stable. So when the economy is stable, then they're looking at what are our resources of revenue, what other resources can we introduce so that we continuously grow as a country. So it is more to build the economy. The other reason also is to provide transparency and accountability to citizens. Remember, a country is not a country if it has no people. So the government has to be accountable to its people. By accountability, it means they're giving you healthcare, it means they're giving you education, access to education, they're giving you access to electricity, they're giving you access to the tools that you need, right? That's one of accountability. Another level of accountability is the money that comes in the country does not just come in. People have worked, and so the money that they help in bringing in, the way we use it, people need to be accountable. They need to show the citizens that we are not just wasting money. Yes.
But do countries get countries get international loans?
Yes, sometimes they get international loans. We have loans from the World Bank, we have loans from the International Monetary Fund. Yeah, countries get loans.
So they pay up
with the interest. Some loans come without interest, some loans come with interest.
But the countries don't, so the interest are not.
Well, it depends. It depends on the loan, on the loan and where it's coming from. But most of the loans that come from big international organizations, so their rates are not usually as they're not big. They're not so big. But remember, the amount of money you get is big. Yeah, governments don't get 1 million francs or 10 million francs, and they get billions. So to reinforce our budgets or to support our limited budgets, sometimes we get loans, and those loans we have to pay them back. Yes.
So can a national budget have deficit or surplus?
Yes, both. But most of the time, they budget. We are going to look at the types of budget. Usually, they budget a balancing budget, where our needs are equal to our money.
So when does the country have a deficit? A country budget have a deficit?
So a country can have a budget deficit if, for example, we have planned, and at some point you find that maybe there was an issue with one of the projects, for example, that we're implementing. So, for example, let's take one of the big projects that is happening, the international airport. So maybe we could say that we are going to use 1 billion to build the airport, but maybe that money is supposed to come from our taxes. And we had planned that we are going to have 15 billion of taxes, but we don't achieve the target. So which means the projects that we had planned for are not going to be achieved 100% because we never achieved the revenue targets. Because maybe we were hoping that we were getting 15 billion of taxes, but maybe some businesses closed in the year. So those businesses are no longer giving taxes. So we failed to get the money. Maybe we had companies that pay taxes for staff, and maybe that company got a problem and closed. The staff got laid off. Did you? So you see, like, let me give you an example that just happened recently. I don't know if you heard of it. So we had something called the USAID. USAID is an American organization that supports projects around the world. Now, recently, one of the things they first did was close down USAID. Here in Rwanda and so many other countries, USAID was supporting a lot of healthcare. They're supporting a lot of education. They're supporting a lot of agriculture. So imagine we had a lot of funding from USAID in this financial year that has just ended, right? And they decided to cut it immediately before even the year ends. So which means all the budget that we had in our budget that was coming from USAID was completely gone. So that way, all the projects that we had planned, many of them could not take place because the funding has gone. Okay? Yeah. So that way then, you're in deficit because for you had budgeted for this amount of money, then this amount of money was taken away. So then, you know, what you are going to implement becomes less, the money you have becomes less. So then you now keep only on the priorities, on the key things. Even the priorities now probably don't have enough money. So those are some of the things that happen. It could also be, like we were saying, it could also be that, so even though we plan, sometimes you plan, but sometimes you don't achieve the things that you've planned the way you want. And I'll give you an example. So in COVID, many people who are employed, maybe they will plan for their salaries every month, what they're going to do. But then COVID hit, we went into lockdown, and we lost our jobs. So imagine everything that, if I had planned for things that I'm going to do, that means I did not have money at all. So that means I only focus on what? On food. Because it is the only thing that I need to survive. Maybe and rent, maybe and electricity. So you focus only on the key things. So then whatever else that I had planned to do, let's say somebody had planned to buy a car, there's no way they can buy it because now they are negatives. Yes. So even though we plan and make assumptions and do things, sometimes we don't achieve because of other factors that we don't have control over. So that's when now budgets become deficits. They become surpluses, of course, when now you have overachieved. So if you plan that you're getting 15 billion of taxes and you get 20 billion, the government has gotten more money, and therefore the other surplus, it can be distributed to other projects which we are lacking in. So that's how it is. But usually, the budgeting are usually balanced to say, we have this money, we are going to do this. Balance out.
Yes, balanced.
So there's that need to account, which is in also what the Auditor General usually focuses on, is accounting for the money that the government used and have we achieved what we wanted to do. Service delivery and public efficiency. The reason why even the priorities come is because the government wants to say, this is what we're focusing on, but are we actually even achieving it in the most efficient way? If we are building hospitals, are we just building buildings, or are we building actually a hospital? If I go to the hospital, can I get a nurse, can I get a doctor, can I get medication? Can I be given a transfer if I need to be transferred? Or are we just putting up buildings? And then they don't have machines, they don't have doctors, they don't. Yeah, exactly. So sometimes some of these things happen. You find that there's a school, but the school has no infrastructure, you know, or they have few teachers, or they don't have books, or the books are few, they're not enough for the students. So that's how the government keeps improving the service delivery to its people. If we put up a school, do we have enough books? If we don't have enough books, can we put books next year? So we budget for books next year. If we don't have enough teachers, can we train more teachers so that next year every school has, the number of teachers that they need? So the service delivery has also to be efficient. That if I come to school, I can get a teacher, I can get a textbook, I have a classroom to sit in, there's a road that goes to the school, so all those things. So we don't just do one project, build a school. You also do everything else that has to do with the school. That is now the efficiency part. So that you're making it easy for people to actually get those services. But if you build a school and I just come and there's no teacher, there's no efficiency. So there has to be a whole chain of how the service delivery is done. And then long-term investment in infrastructure and public capital, that has to do with now infrastructure. We need the roads, the hospitals, and the water systems, electricity, and all that. And then crisis response and economic flexibility. How do we deal with crisis when we budget? How do we deal with flexibility? Flexibility how flexible are we to make sure that we deal with that issue? So that's why really the government budgets to make sure that some of these things are done. So now let's look at types of budgets. So I focused on mostly at the national level, but when it comes to personal budgeting, you can translate the same thing into personal budgeting. It is really, if you talk about an operational budget at a personal level, it is the same things we're talking about. It is your needs. It is the food, it is the housing, it is the electricity, it is, those things. So there are things that are done on a regular basis. So when you look at one of the types of budgets is operating budget, okay? So operating budgets basically deal with day-to-day revenues and expenses. So if it's an organization, they're paying salaries, they're buying electricity, maybe they're providing medical health to staff, they're buying maybe water to drink, cleaning, those things. So that's what an operation, it is something that is operational that goes on day to day. And then we have a capital budget. So capital budget is the one now that looks at long-term investments. When we're talking about long-term investments, it's the things that citizens need, just service delivery and efficiency that we're talking about, that people need to survive again on a daily basis. You need good roads. You need good transport systems. We need schools. We need, so all the things that we talk about, health, hospitals, and all that. So investments into that is called capital budget. You guys are accountants, right? Capital investments, long term. Yeah. And then we have other budgets that are called program or programmatic budgets. So those are the example that Blaise said, if you've already budgeted and somebody decides to give you $2 million in the middle of the year, most of the time they give you that money with an intention for you to use it for a certain program, for a certain project. So maybe America will look at Rwanda and say, we are going to give you $1 million to contribute to building hospitals. Okay? Maybe for us, we had a plan of building 5, and they say we are going to fund you to build 10. So that is programmatic because it's focused on one particular program or one particular area. So it is very, very specific, and it comes to support that. You can't even take it to do something else. The conditions are very clear. It is for building hospitals. So you can't take that money and use it somewhere else. No.
What if you do?
Even if there's an emergency, that money is not, you don't touch it, you touch other money. Because that one comes with specific conditions.
You can't use it.
No, you use it for that project specifically, I've told you. It is for a particular program. So, and this is what happens mostly with grants. Every grant comes to focus on something. It could be one thing, it could be 5 things, but those are the things that you need to use the money for. So if let's say the UK government says we are going to fund education, but we are only buying books. We are only buying school books. You don't go and train teachers. Icyo gihe uba uvuye muri gahunda yabo. For them, they want to buy school books, or maybe they want to build libraries. So the focus will be building, that money will only go to build libraries and put in books. You will not say that you're going to train teachers.
But if you get major skills from that?
No. The money that is a grant is usually focused on something. If you want to use it for something else, you go and have discussions with the funder again, the person who gave you money again, and say, we have this issue, can we work together to make sure that we take this money and put it there? If you agree, that's fine. But you can't just, so they have to first allow you to use it. So grants usually come with a lot of conditions.
When you get the money, gusazana n'ikintu cy'abantu kugira bo baze barebe yuko mwabikoze. Hazana n'abantu kugira baze barebe ko mwabikoze.
Yes, baba bafite na teams zabo monitoring. In fact, hari n'igihe akunanira kuyakoresha agasubirayo kubera ko the conditions are too much. Yes. So that's the program budgeting. So you budget it, but you budget for that particular program. I'm Frank Ajebukwa. And even in personal life, you can do it. You can say, I'm going to build a house. Every month, I'll put aside 100,000 because I want to build maybe a house of 20 million. So that money is specific for building a house. If you're committed that you want to make sure the house is completed in 1 year, I'm a Frank Ajebukwa. You always make sure that that money goes to the construction part. Of course, if you touch it, that means the construction delays or it fails. So it is money that you set aside for a particular project, and when it is done, you move on, you do something else. Yeah. And then we have zero-based budgeting. So these ones are tied to performance outcomes or targets, and it helps in accountability and strategic funding. So this one is budgeting to say we have this budget. Maybe we are going to, what example can I use? Maybe we are going to, so it is usually used, it is spent if you have achieved what you plan to do. So let's say we are going to assess whether the level of literacy in Rwanda has increased. We have said we are putting students in school, and our target is that we are going to graduate 1,000 students with what is the pass rate? The highest passing 80 and above. So let's say we are going to we have 10 schools, and each school we are going to have all of them are going to pass with 70% and above, right? That is the target we've given ourselves, and therefore that means we must make sure that they have materials, they have teachers, they attend classes, they have access to health and electricity and all these things, right? If we achieve that target, okay? If we achieve target, so what the budget will come to say is that, for me, I have given you this money, but you must achieve this. If you don't achieve the target, we are going to adjust the budget. Maybe next year I will give you less because you never achieved the target. So it is usually attached to a performance. You do this, I give you this. Do this, I give you this. So if we achieve the target and find that students have passed the value, maybe next year I will increase your budget because I can see that you're actually performing. So it is usually attached to how well are you doing. Even in the workplace, it's done. Usually, we have evaluations of, let's say, staff. And we say, we are going to evaluate you like this, like this. If you achieve this, we'll give you a bonus. Or if you achieve this, maybe we'll give you a promotion. So it is attached on performance. And usually, institutions budget for that. They'll be like, let's plan to give maybe 5 bonuses. It could be, if they turn out to be more, that's good. But most of the time, the bonuses will go to the people that have, performed well, or promotions have performed well. And remember, also promotion comes with the budget, because you're promoting somebody, that means their salaries increase. So it is attached to that. This is almost the same as this, and they usually, the public sector or governments usually use this, because they're also looking at how they're also controlling waste. you're making sure that money is not just being wasted or used the way it's not supposed. So what is very key is to understand that countries often, they combine operating capital and program budgets. How? Because they have people working in government that need to be paid. They have to pay electricity. They have to pay internet. They have to pay the offices, office buildings. They have to pay water. They have to pay taxes for staff. They have to pay social security for staff. So those are operational things that happen regularly. When it comes to capital, they have projects that are being done. There's building roads. There's building hospitals. So long term, yes, the investments in long term. And then program budgets, because we get grants and loans to focus on this. So these are, the government budget always has all the three, because those things happen in government all the time. So at a personal level, this can also happen. All three can happen. Yeah, you need food every day. You need transport every day. You need electricity every day. Isn't that operating?
Yes.
So if you have reached a level where you want to buy a house or you build a house, that is your capital investment. If you have another project, maybe you have decided, I'm going to start farming. I have my garden, I'm going to invest in it to make sure that I grow tomatoes and be selling to the market. That is a specific program, and you're saying, I have 500,000 that I'm going to use to do this project, and then start implementing it. So that's, again, a program. It's very, very specific. So these are very common because all these things, people need them and use them on a daily basis.
On a regular basis, we all use three.
Yes, most of the time. So this one, usually this one is done at government level, and it usually comes in, it is a little bit part of the program, because they're looking at how the program is performing. If it is training teachers, how many have we trained? What level of skills have they achieved? And if we have managed to train 1,000 teachers, maybe next year we can train 2,000. So the performance helps you to get more money or get less money. How you have performed is how it's determined. Yes.
So we only use those three.
Yes, so these are the common ones. And these ones come mostly when it's like a grant or a specific funding that has come in that needs to see the performance. Yes.
Like NGOs.
Yes, like NGOs, because they always have different programs. Maybe they're saying we are going to increase English lessons. We're going to train more teachers to train more English. They're not training French, they're not training Kinyarwanda, they're not training science or biology, they're focused on English.
Yeah.
So the outcome determines whether that program continues or not, whether it gets more money or not. Yeah. So now it's my turn to ask you. But before I go into that, I wanted to show you a very simple template. Simple template to help you do a simple budget. So like we were saying, we have so many. There are so many ways of budgeting, and there are different tools for budgeting. Most people use right now. Most people use maybe Excel. Actually, many people use Excel for now. But other people also use online tools. And so it depends on how people want to do that. But I just wanted to show you a very short way of coming up with your budget, especially at a personal level. So for example, you have your monthly income, okay? So maybe you have 3 sources of revenue. Maybe you're employed and you have a salary of 25,000. Maybe you have a small business that sells books and school materials. Maybe you make 10,000. Then you have maybe a small consultancy services. You advise maybe businesses. You advise small businesses on how they can do their books of accounts or how they can make their businesses better, and you get 25,000. So you have a total of 60,000 per month of revenue. how do you plan to spend it? So you come on your monthly expenses. Okay, you first determine your revenue first of all,
Yes.
because it's the one that is going to help you to plan. So then you come on your monthly expenses. So your monthly expenses, they have a number of things. You have maybe rent, or you bought a house and you're paying a loan. So you're spending 30,000 every month. Okay, you have to have electricity. You have to buy electricity. Maybe you spend 1,200. Or okay, electricity. Or you're using gas to cook. You use 2,500. Maybe you want airtime, 4,500. You have food of 5,000. You're buying Vaseline for 500, and maybe you like football and you want to go to a football match. Maybe you want to pay 1,000 to go and watch a match, and maybe you have decided, let me put aside 500,000 for emergency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the previous class, you remember we said tracking your expenses. So this is one way of how you can track your expenses. When you keep track of everything that you've done, it helps you to take control of your money. But if you just spend and spend and spend, before you know it, I didn't know I was remaining with 1,000. But once you have tracked every expense, everything that you're buying, then you know how much you have, you know how much to put aside, you know how much to save, and you can always have a summary of your total expenses and total income. So you can see, based on this, your total income was 6,000 and your expenses were 45,000. Now you have 14,800 to save.
So based on that rule of budget where you say 50 for needs, 30 for wants, and 20 for savings. So in that budget, did you base it on that rule?
No, this one I didn't base on that rule. I just wanted to show you how you can track, and that you can use a simple tool like Excel to help you track your things, calculate how much money you're spending, what you're spending it on, and how much you can actually save. So, so based on your question, it is very now easy to come here and say you prioritize these things. You say, you know, all this for me, this is the 50%, for example. Football match is a want. I may go there, I may not go there. So it falls into the 30%.
Yeah.
Maybe you've also decided, just in case maybe I use more electricity than I usually use, or maybe I have to buy medication or something. Maybe you put another miscellaneous, and then your 20% is here. So the balance that you have, you decide is the one now I'm saving. So when you're tracking your expenses and your revenues, it is important that you see that, are you saving anything? The target is for you to see, are you really saving? Yeah? The 50-30 rule is very standard, but you may not achieve the 20%, but at least maybe achieving 10% or even 5%. The most important is to always think, how do I control my money and make sure that I'm saving savings which will help me grow more money and become wealthy, like Sonia, who wants to grow wealth. Okay?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give you just a quick example of how you can actually use some of the tools to grow more money. I mean to plan. So now I have a question for you. What is the one budgeting habit you've taken away?
Planning. Yeah, planning for future emergencies. And that's one.
Also,
And plan with flexibility. Leave room for flexibility. Don't be nubwo ngo nyana plans byarangiye nta n'ikintu nahinduraho ngo nta kintu nongera kuvugana n'ibije byarangiye. Because there will be issues and reasons why you need to actually revisit the budget or review the budget. Okay. How? So yeah, you had something to say.
you see,
Ati washakuvuga.
icyo nshaka kuvuga, avuze example, ngira ngiye kutavuga uti investing, so you can, have more money.
Exactly. What do you think? You're sure you have not taken away anything? Or you have taken away so much you don't know which one to say? Sonia, you have something to say?
No.
No?
You have some program budgeted that you, if you save that money, so it have even in the purpose that can do in the future.
Okay.
cyangwa se ukavuga uti adjusting kugira ngo umuntu avuge uti amafaranga amaze no kuyafata agize crise runaka ese ahise ahindura ukuntu we yakoze plan ye.
Yego.
Oh, increasing the financial stability. If, for example, planning how can I spend money and where can I get money, and also make difference of earning and spending, help you to manage your money and make it stable.
Okay. Where do you think, which part of budgeting do you think is complicated?
Part of
In the budgeting process, you coming up with your revenue, you're coming up with your expenses, you know, the emergencies and all that. Which part do you think might be complicated in the budgeting process?
Tracking expense.
Even emergency.
Yes, emergencies can be complicated.
Tracking spending, like how you will spend your money, knowing that I should do this, I should leave this.
Why is it difficult? Because you have so many things you want.
You really have so many
Because you need to make
You need so many things.
You see that all things is important to you.
Yeah.
You lose the choice.
Yeah. That's on a personal level, and on the level of organizations and all that, it's the same thing. They also they have so many things they need to do, and sometimes achieving your revenue goals also becomes difficult. You know, I could say, we're going to collect 50 million this year, and then you collect 30, because there are other things that happen that you didn't have control over. So then you end up not achieving your goals. So planning and budgeting is very beautiful. It's a good thing, but implementation becomes difficult because sometimes it's hard to achieve some of the things that you have decided to come up with. So what do you think are some of the risks that come with not being able to budget? Like getting your money and using it just like that without budgeting. What are some of the...
Being bankrupt.
Yes, bankrupt.
misuse of money.
Yes.
And you left in the loss. You see, you don't have anything behind.
Overstressed.
Overstressed.
Peer pressure.
Actually, peer pressure makes you spend without planning.
Yes.
You want everything you want to go. When they say, let's go to the market, you go. When they say, let's go to football, you go. They say, let's go to watch a movie, you all go. And you have not planned. Maybe that person, for them, they plan, they have the budget to go there every day. For you, you have not. Because you don't have the same amount of money. So, before you know it,
being poor. You can also be poor.
When the business gets off.
Yes, the business can fail if you don't plan around it.
Overspending
Yeah, it still leads you to being poor.
and not reaching your goals.
True.
You can also be homeless.
Very important. Yes, because if you have not planned where you're going to live, cyangwa ntiwashyize amafaranga iruhande yo kwishyura rent, barakwirukana mu nzu y'abandi da. Kandi udafite n'ahandi ho kujya. So, as we come to the close of this session, any questions, any comments? So I'd like to thank you and all the students online for your interactions, for asking questions and comments. And generally, I've noticed that you're students who are very open-minded, but also very smart. So it was good to take you through these sessions. And I hope this is not just something that you're listening to for the sake of listening. You're actually going to apply it. You may not have the money to apply it on it today, but it's for you're already going to university. So you're already adults, you're going to start doing jobs. So these are things that you need to start thinking through and apply. But beyond that also, even advising your elders, your parents, your guardians on some of these things. Sometimes we even have guardians who have not gone to school to learn these things.
Yes.
And so they don't know that this can actually happen. So it is also your role to actually advise and help them to, to be able to plan ahead. So thank you so much for your time, for being attentive, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Clap for yourselves. You did a good job.
The Rwanda Basic Education Board Multimedia Production Studio is on a mission to transform education through technology. With a vision to become a leading multimedia production hub, the studio is dedicated to enhancing digital learning, fostering innovative educational content, and ensuring accessible, high-quality education for all.
It will also enable teachers to improve themselves and support each other's growth. We aim to bring this program to all schools.
To achieve this, the studio focuses on developing high-quality multimedia learning materials, supporting cost-effective digitization, improving capacity, and ensuring learning continuity. By expanding broadcast channels and streamlining production, it aims to make education more efficient and widely available. The studio adds significant value by reducing costs, increasing in-house production capacity, and ensuring rapid content delivery through social media, television, and radio. From multimedia learning materials and live science experiments to edutainment programs and digital textbooks, the studio embraces a diverse range of content. Its delivery methods include pre-recorded and live-streamed programs, talk shows, documentaries, and sign language videos, ensuring inclusivity and engagement for all learners. Through innovation and technology, the Rwanda Basic Education Board is shaping the future of education, making learning more dynamic, interactive, and accessible.